Check out carmarshal.com. The link is in the description. They help support us.
For official. At least 8,000 drug convictions in Massachusetts are likely to be thrown out because of a state drug lab scandal. The state attorney general joined public defenders and the ACLU in pushing for the dismissals. The tainted cases are tied to former lab employee Sonia Farrick. She admitted to using drugs she was supposed to be testing. Paula Reed is here with the latest problems tied to the Massachusetts drug lab. Paula, good morning.
Good morning. If these cases are thrown out, many people will be getting out of prison, and it will be the second time in 2 years that thousands of drug convictions are being thrown out for official misconduct in the state. At least 8,000 cases are now in the hands of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court.
For 8 years, Sonia Farrick worked at the Department of Public Health Amherst Laboratory as a chemist responsible for analyzing samples in criminal drug cases. In January of 2013, authorities discovered unlabeled drugs at Farrick's workstation. She was arrested after a search of her car revealed even more stolen drugs. During her trial, Farrick admitted to using drugs in the lab and even manufacturing in the lab of crack cocaine for her own personal use. She was given an 18-month jail sentence.
This is really a historic case here in Massachusetts.
Carol Rose is the executive director of the Massachusetts ACLU. The group is seeking the dismissal of all the convictions based in part on evidence Farrick handled.
Tens of thousands of families who've been impacted by this because their loved ones had to serve time in jail and in prison.
This isn't the first drug lab scandal in Massachusetts. In 2013, chemist Annie Ducon, who worked at a state lab in Boston, pled guilty to falsifying the results of drug tests over an 8-year span. In April, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court made the historic decision to dismiss nearly 22,000 wrongful drug convictions in cases that Ducon worked on.
Her output was prodigious and frankly unrealistic because she was just making it up.
The magnitude of this disaster is grand, to say the least.
Nicole DeBoard is a former assistant district attorney. She says the cases involving Farrick will likely be thrown out and will be difficult to prosecute again.
They're going to have to undo all these cases, which will take more time than it probably did to prosecute them in the first place.
11 of the state's district attorneys believe some of the cases are still pursuable. The Amherst drug lab where Farrick worked is now closed. The ACLU hopes a decision can come in the early spring.
Paula, thank you.
Massachusetts prosecutors to throw out 8,000 convictions in second drug lab scandal. Prosecutors from across Massachusetts have tallied more than 8,000 convictions they say will be dismissed because they are tainted by a scandal at the state drug lab, according to new court filings by the Massachusetts Attorney General. The cases involved analysis by lab chemist Sonia Farrick, who was both testing and consuming drugs seized by the police for 8 years. Prosecutors indicated they will seek to preserve convictions in some of the cases Farrick handled, either through retesting or other evidence. But the state's public defenders and the American Civil Liberties Union are seeking a blanket dismissal of all Farrick's cases and further sanctions to deter prosecutorial misconduct such as the kind that delayed the full exposure of Farrick's misadventures for years, resulting in some defendants spending more years in prison. The list compiled by prosecutors marks a key step in resolving the second debacle from the Massachusetts drug lab scandal. This year, Massachusetts prosecutors had to erase more than 21,500 drug convictions because of the actions of lab chemist Annie Ducon, who admitted contaminating, falsifying, or not testing drugs in her Boston area lab over 8 years. The State Public Defender Service and the ACLU convinced the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, the state's highest court, that mass dismissal was more efficient than individually retrying 24,000 cases with 20,000 defendants. Prosecutors compiled a list of cases for dismissal and a small number, about 1.5%, where it would seek to preserve the conviction. The High Court also ordered the prosecutors to send a court-approved letter to all affected defendants and establish a phone number to public defenders for defendants needing guidance, all at government expense. Prosecutors dismiss more than 21,500 cases in wake of Massachusetts lab chemists' misconduct. That process, all sides agree, can be used again in trying to clean up the Farrick mess. but reaching this stage was delayed because two Assistant Attorneys General, Ann Kaczmarek and Chris Foster, withheld evidence that showed that Farrick's drug-fueled escapades, including cooking and smoking drugs in the state lab in Amherst, Massachusetts, had lasted for 8 years, not 6 months as they initially claimed. The Attorney General's office prosecuted Farrick after she was arrested in January 2013 and Farrick pleaded guilty in January 2014, but Kaczmarek and Foster repeatedly refused to provide either prosecutors or defense attorneys with Farrick's own notes and records showing she had been in drug treatment for years. It was only after the High Court ordered an investigation into Farrick that it was revealed she had been using the lab's drug supplies from the day she started in August 2004 to the day of her arrest in 2013. Former Massachusetts Assistant Attorney General Ann Kaczmarek, who prosecuted disgraced drug lab chemist Sonia Farrick in 2013 but withheld details of her drug use from defendants whose cases she had handled. A judge who heard her testimony said her conduct was reprehensible and tampered with the fair administration of justice. Sean Musgrave / Boston Globe. Foster and Kaczmarek piled misrepresentation upon misrepresentation, Superior Court Judge Richard J. Carey wrote last June, to shield the mental health worksheets from disclosure to the drug lab defendants. The delay in revealing Farrick's misconduct caused some defendants to wrongly spend years in prison, the judge found. Kaczmarek and Foster compounded and aggravated the damage caused by Farrick. Their intentional and deceptive actions ensured that justice would certainly be delayed, if not outright denied. Prosecutors slammed for lack of moral compass, withholding evidence in widening Massachusetts drug lab scandal. In September, the ACLU and the Committee for Public Counsel Services, which oversees public defenders and appointed defense counsel in Massachusetts, sued the Attorney General and all 11 district attorneys seeking a list and dismissal of all Farrick-related cases. In November, the prosecutors began providing lists of cases they were willing to dismiss and those they wished to preserve. Although the numbers for each district aren't complete, Attorney General Maura Healey's office stated in a filing last week that the district attorneys will agree to the dismissal with prejudice of over 8,000 tainted convictions, and said that these dismissals should not be delayed. Healey also accepted all of Carey's findings about the misconduct by the former Assistant Attorneys General Kaczmarek and Foster, both of whom are working elsewhere in state government, to bring expeditious relief to thousands of affected defendants. The district attorneys also agreed to use the same notice and dismissal process from the Duquesne case, but not for a blanket dismissal of all Farrick cases. Denying the district attorney the opportunity to re-prosecute, Assistant Berkshire County District Attorney Joseph A. Piropan argued in a November brief, would be an extreme sanction, for conduct unconnected to the district attorney. Massachusetts crime chemist admits daily drug use in lab, sparking a second scandal. But the defense attorneys want their suit referred to the full High Court. It is currently being heard by a single justice to resolve the legal question of whether action should be taken to deter prosecutorial misconduct. What we're actually trying to build here, ACLU lawyer Matthew Siegel said, is a completely new way of dealing with wrongful convictions in the United States. Instead of arguing over each individual defendant, we're trying to create a legal structure to not have these people come forward one at a time. The defense bar notes that even minor drug convictions can have collateral impacts on people's lives, such as the ability to get loans or jobs or school admissions. In the Farrick case, the defenders want the High Court to dismiss all convictions tainted by the Commonwealth's misconduct without individualized showings of prejudice, and without allowing prosecutors to maintain any convictions. It also wants the court to consider additional relief to remedy or sanction the egregious prosecutorial misconduct in this case, and to deter similar misconduct in the future. The district attorneys responded that their lists of cases to be dismissed will include fewer than 40 cases statewide to be preserved, and so the High Court need not take up any larger questions about the misconduct committed by the two attorneys general. The defense bar have not established any widespread prosecutorial misconduct such that a question should be reported to the full Supreme Court, Assistant Essex County District Attorney Ronald DeRosa wrote recently, for a prophylactic rule or standing order for future cases.
you know, what's clear is that Sonia Farag presented a very serious flaw to the system. At the time, you know, she was employed by the Department of Public Health, DPH, that supervised that lab, and clearly what we know from some of the litigation is that lab and Sonia Farag's conduct was not up to snuff. So what we're acknowledging after this litigation, essentially, in a filing to the SJC, a single justice, Judge Gaziano, who's overseeing this process at this point, is that the likelihood is we're stipulating to the dismissal at this point of about 3,900 cases that come from the district and juvenile courts in this county. At this juncture, because of the volume of cases, I and my office are withholding any decisions on superior court cases, of course cases that are more complicated and serious at this juncture as we continue to review those cases as to viability of prosecuting those cases again, whether we have the drugs and so on and so forth. But my opinion, and it's reflected in the announcement today about the dismissal of a significant number of cases, is that there was a very serious infirmity in those prosecutions. Mainly and specifically, Sonia Farag's misconduct as an analyst. And to me, it's an issue of justice, it's an issue of fairness, and an issue of practicality that those cases should be and will be dismissed at some point. The review relative to the more serious cases is ongoing by my office. We're there just talking about superior court cases well into the hundreds, if not near 1,000 cases. And when I complete that review, a decision will be made about whether we decide to pursue those cases again in some number or in totality, or whether I decide, like the district and juvenile court cases, to dismiss them based on that very serious flaw in the system that I want to make clear has nothing to do with the administration back at that time of the DA's office or any of the police organizations that produced those cases. It was singular and specific to Sonia Farag's conduct under the watch of DPH that results in this issue that we continue to grapple with.
County, this is Charlotte County Cop Watch, and I wanted to explain what fair use is. You can use pieces of news articles if you're doing it for news reporting, you have commentary, and you're doing it for education purposes. So that's what fair use is, as you can see right here. Another reason why I wanted to make this video is to let you know I have just joined with Patreon. A nice thing with Patreon, I make no money on YouTube. They took the money away years ago, and so this is another way to give, and it's a nice thing too because you can give monthly. You can give $1, $5, $10, whatever. I do 4 to 5 hours a day on trying to wake the sheeple up on how corrupt it is and different ways that you can fight the corruption. So Patreon is a way that you can do it, and then of course the old way is still there. Donate to Sheriff County Cop Watch with PayPal or credit card. So keep that in mind. 4 to 5 hours a day. I make no money, but the corruption happened to me and I'm sick of it, so I'm trying to wake people up. But my wife would love it if if we could get some help out there. There's 47,000 subscribers. Just think if each one of you subscribers just gave let's say actually yes, $1 a month. 47,000 subscribers gave $1 a month. That would be awesome. That's not going to happen. But anyways, that would be great if it did happen. But do the math in your head. Just think about it. Like I said, 4 to 5 hours a day. I get no money from YouTube. YouTube has gone nuts. You can't do anything anymore. They're taking the money away everywhere. So these are a couple different ways that you can still help out with all this time that I put in. And as you know, I'm in a special situation where, at least I can do it, 4 to 5 hours a day. We have a cleaning company during the day. That's what allows me to do this, and we're debt free. So this is my hobby. I don't go fishing and all that other crap. I try to save the world. So help me out to make the wife happy, man. In fact, if you guys did give $1 a day, and there was 47,000 of you, and you did it, and each of you gave $1, and that was every month, oh my God, yes, I could quit. I could start suing them. Another idea too that we have is, if I got, some funds, we could actually contact everyone that has been ticketed and or arrested and put in jail and start sending them postcards to let them know we're here and to see if everything went all right, and if it didn't, find out their story. So we could even do more investigations and more lawsuits. Lawsuits take money. So just think about that. You know, 47,000 of you so far right now. You know, $1 a day. I mean, $1 a month on Patreon, or $5 a month Patreon, 10, 20, whatever. Just do the math in your head. Help out. This is a lot of work every single day. Thanks.